Time for more Cheap Heat. Yes, sirree. After a bit of a hiatus, I'm back. I'm back in a reorganized room. I'd pan around, but who needs to see all that? I reorganized my room so that there's no boxes on the floor anymore. Anyway, I'm going to continue my discussion of interesting and inexpensive, relatively speaking, albums on the ENJA label. ENJA. They're out of Germany, and it's got a real interesting history. It was started by two jazz fans, Horst Weber and Matthias Winkelmann, and they mostly concentrated on sort of edgy, modern, acoustic jazz sounds. And they got into doing some so-called free jazz type stuff, which I'll talk about in a subsequent video. And they sort of edged into sort of fusion-y type stuff, but not really. It's not really a big fusion label. But that said, I'm going to try to do a video on some of the more fusion-y type stuff they've done. The more recent releases, especially the ones on CD, definitely stray into that zone. But early on, up to about 1990, when the dominant format was just beginning to become CDs, the fusion aspect of the label was pretty minor. Subsequently, it got much greater, and there's a ton of really great fusion on the label, but it's almost all in CDs and also LPs from the vinyl revival that's going on now in the 21st century. Anyway, these are mostly from the 70s and 80s, and some of these I've briefly touched on in the past, and I'll just re-mention them. And some of them, some of them are not quite cheap, or might be cheap in Europe, but not in the U.S., or are cheap in the U.S., but not in Europe. Since it's a European label, a lot of the former, a couple of the latter. Anyway, what are we listening to now? What is this beautiful music that we're listening to now? This is a record I got for $4 in 2002 from a record store that I dearly love that went out of business here in Santa Fe, New Mexico, called Earshot. And later on it became Cheap Shot. I think I got this in the Cheap Shot days. Anyway, this is by a Greek-American guitarist, multi-instrumentalist, and vocalist and composer named Nana Simopoulos. And she's still active. She's still doing stuff. Not on the ENJA label. She did record 2 LPs on the ENJA label. This was her first ENJA LP and her second LP overall. It's called Wings and Air. And if you can read the cover, the personnel on this is just mind-boggling. We've got Jim Pepper, Don Cherry, Charlie Hayden, Jerry Granelli, Ara Dinkjian on oud, it's a great record. It's a great record. There's a little bit of didgeridoo on it, I'm warning you. But this is sort of what someone might call a world fusion kind of record. But there's plenty of jazz content on this, as you can hear. It's Jim Pepper. Anyway, this is a lovely record, and still can be found fairly inexpensively. I don't think it was ever issued in the U.S. or in Canada, like a lot of the ENJA records. But that said, it's like a $20 or less LP, and you'll be hearing it beginning to end, and it goes all over the place. There's all kinds of cool stuff on it. All right, so getting to the bulk of what I'm going to talk about, sort of, I wouldn't say fusion-y, but like less straight-ahead jazz, but not necessarily avant-garde albums on the ENJA label. One of my favorite and most prolific artists on the label is mallet percussionist named David Friedman. He's been on a lot of really cool records, and this was his first record for the ENJA label. It did get issued in the US, so it's going to be pretty cheap. If you don't have it, get it. Really interesting personnel too. Pat Rebolo on keyboards, piano, out of the family of Man. He was in Herbie Mann's backing band for years. Bruce Ditmas on drums, one of my favorite all-time drummers, very Tony Williams influenced player. On bass we have Harvey Swartz, and on vocals Ramona Francis, who did a fantastic record for MPS. It's pretty rare. Don't be scared off by the vocals. They're really excellent on this, and they fit in beautifully. And this is a great record. Really, all of Friedman's stuff is worth owning. I find him endlessly fascinating. He always works with the best drummers, Bruce Ditmas being the first of those. And this is called Futures Past. And of course, it's out in Europe, it's out in the US, Canada. It was well distributed. Slightly less well distributed are some of his later records. Of the Wind's Eye, relatively new addition to my collection. This has Daniel Humer, speaking of great drummers. Jane Ira Bloom, a fantastic soprano saxophonist who also recorded for ENJA. I believe I have all of her stuff on CD, not LP. And again, Harvey Swartz on bass. And really great collection of tunes. They do a Monk tune, but the rest are originals by either Jane Ira Bloom or David Friedman. Really cool record. If you like mallet percussion, gotta get this. This one I've already talked about, so I'll just touch on it. But I mean, with this personnel, you can't not own this and say you like jazz. Ronnie Barrage on drums, one of the greatest percussionists ever. The guy is just phenomenal. He's got chops, musicality, everything going on. Jerry Allen, the late Jerry Allen, beautiful piano playing. Just absolutely virtuosic on this. And Anthony Cox on bass. So this is a killer band. And Friedman, of course, on vibes and marimba. And it's an all originals set. And it never stops. It's relentlessly great. This is called Shades of Change. So Of the Wind's Eye with Daniel Humer and Jane Ira Bloom. Shades of Change with Barrage and Cox and Jerry Allen. This album, I'm just going to mention this in passing because it's incredibly cheap. I recently bought it for $3. And it's a David Friedman solo effort. It came out on the Inner City label. A lot of the ENJA stuff was released in the US on Inner City. And this was never on ENJA. It's the East Wind Records. And I'll probably have to do a Inner City special episode or 3 in the future. But I thought I'd mention this because it's cheap and it's great, and it kind of fits in with the overall tenor of the albums I'm talking about. So this is titled Winter Love, April Joy. It's a David Friedman solo record. No drums on it at all, but David Samuels is on it, playing vibes and marimba. Together they had a band called Double Image, which did do an album for ENJA, which I don't own, or if I do, I have it on CD, and that was reissued on Inner City and should be very cheap and easily available here in the US. The other people on this are Hubert Laws and again Harvey Swartz, also known as Harvey S. Anyway, really cool record. No drums. It's kind of a chamber mellow jazz kind of sound that I really like. So another artist on ENJA that I've talked about quite a bit already and will continue to talk about until I breathe my final breath on this earthly sphere is Bennie Wallace. And I neglected to talk about this for 2 reasons. I didn't own it the last time I made one of these videos. Secondly, this is a little bit different than some of the ones I've talked about before, which are basically acoustic, edgy, modern jazz things with Bennie Wallace blowing incredible tenor sax over accompaniment by people like Chick Corea and Eddie Gomez and Danny Richmond. I mean, this guy plays the best of the best. He did a record with Elvin Jones called Big Jim's Tango and Dave Holland. This is a little bit different. This has kind of a fusion edge to it. It kind of presages his work on Blue Note, which happened a few years later. This is called Sweeping Through the City. And you might be scared off by it because it says Bennie Wallace with the Biloxi, Blues Ensemble of Biloxi and the Wings of Song. You might think it's a vocal LP. Actually, there's vocals only on 2 tracks. The rest of the album is really cool, edgy, fusion-tinged modern jazz. It's fusion-tinged because one of the participants is John Scofield. Yes, the young John Scofield, circa 1984. So he had hair back then. and it's just a really great record. John Scofield, Ray Anderson, another wonderful artist who recorded extensively for ENJA. Dennis Irwin on bass, on bass. Also Mike Richmond on bass. The Wings of Song, which is a wonderful gospel quartet on 2 tracks. Tom Whaley on drums. So it's a really great record. I really like this one a lot. And it was a recent purchase. I got it for like $5. And you can too. It's a little beat. I might be looking for a better copy. Speaking of the wonderful Mr. Scofield, I'm a huge fan. He was on a number of ENJA labels and recorded for the label. His trio with Steve Swallow and Bill Stewart did a bunch of work for ENJA. Also, earlier on, he did some quartet stuff with Joe LaBarbera on drums. Those, I have the CDs of those, not the LPs. They were all issued on various labels in the U.S., notably Inner City. He appears as a sideman on a number of different LPs, though. And you should really make an effort to get them. My favorite one of all time is this. It's credited to George Adams, my favorite tenor player, aside from Billy Harper. Actually, he's neck and neck with Billy Harper. Hannibal, Marvin, Peterson, and friends. And of course, John Scofield is one of the friends. And this is a Canadian pressing, so it could be found fairly cheaply stateside. Other personnel include Scofield, Ron Burton on piano, Walter Schmacher on bass, a fine German bassist, and Alan Nelson on drums. Philly guy, actually, Philadelphian. So yay, represent. This is a great album. It's got some blues, straight up blues on it with vocals. George Adams is a great singer. Again, don't be scared off by the vocals. It's got some fusion-y sort of moments. It's got some definitely edgy modern jazz stuff on it. Ron Burton crushes it on piano throughout. It's also got almost free-leaning stuff, which oddly enough was composed by John Scofield. You wouldn't think that, but this is a really great, really varied record, and not many people know about this for some reason. I don't know why, but go out and find it immediately, right now. George Adams, Hannibal and Friends, More Sightings, it's called. Recorded in 1984. It's a live recording. Speaking of Hannibal, this record isn't exactly cheap, but it's so great that you might want to just stop penny pinching for a minute. It's still going to be cheaper than most of the new vinyl that's out now. So we're talking like a $20, $25 record, maybe less if you're lucky. And I used to see this everywhere. I think it was shipped cut out. I don't think it made much of an impact at the time. But when it came out, there was it's actually it's kind of a sad topic. But this is called The Angels of Atlanta, and there is a serial killer in Atlanta and killing little black boys. It's awful. And it was constantly in the news. This is 1981, 82. And I was in college at the time in the South, and this was a big major news item. Anyway, Hannibal recorded an album, dedicated to the memory of these children. It's called The Angels of Atlanta, and it is an incredible, emotional document. This is I would say this is almost essential for anybody interested in modern jazz, in the so-called spiritual jazz. And it's got an amazing lineup. Kenny Barron, George Adams, Deirdre Murray, who's plays with Hannibal a lot, Cecil McBee on bass, Danny Richmond on drums. There's a Harlem Boys Choir on a track, and vocals by Pat Peterson, who recorded her own album for ENJA shortly after this was made. This is just a fantastic record all the way. Can't recommend it highly enough. A real prized item in my own collection, and I've got a lot of records. This one really stands out. So if you ever see it anywhere for any price, I would just get it. The Angels of Atlanta by Hannibal. And that's Hannibal Marvin Peterson. And he's just one of those guys that I don't know, I pick up anything that he's on, whether it's on ENJA or not. He did a lot of records that were Japanese only. I've got them, I think most of them, if not all of them. He recorded for MPS, ENJA, and a bunch of other labels. Also put out his own records. Really a remarkable artist, and someone that we should all be aware of. His first record for the label, this is the inner city reissue, was called Hannibal and Antibes, and it's another live set, and it's 2 side-long tracks. So side 1, 18 minutes, side 2, 19 minutes, or vice versa. Side 1 is an original titled Row. Side 2 is a 20-minute version of Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, but it's not, it goes all over the place. It's very varied. And you can read the personnel. George Adams, once again, and Deirdre Murray. Micaiah and Shoko on drums, killing it. Absolutely amazing playing. And Steve Neal on bass. Anyway, this is a great record. I would not recommend it to you if it wasn't. And it's been repressed numerous times. And it could be found, this is HEB. It could be found, especially the inner city pressing. It's very plentiful. Okay, getting back onto the Schofield tip. He kept recording for ENJA into the 80s, possibly in the 90s, and this is from 1986. Another huge favorite of mine, Franco Ambrazetti and Friends. He recorded a lot for the label over the years. I have them mostly on CD. This is, I think, the only LP I have by him on ENJA, and this is actually my favorite one, and it's called Movies. He also released Movies 2, which isn't quite as good as this, but this is the first one, and it's all movie themes, and they really mess with them. They're not true to form at all. They really take the movie themes all kinds of interesting places. Great lineup on this. Franco Ambrazetti was a trumpeter, is a trumpeter and flugelhornist. John Schofield, Jerry Allen again on piano. She plays some synthesizer on this. It's not objectionable at all though. Michael Formanek on bass, Daniel Humer on drums, and Jerry Gonzalez on percussion. So it's an all-star quintet, sextet, and they do all kinds of cool music. Summertime by George Gershwin, Yellow Submarine, which is really good, Chan's song, The Old Black Magic, Good Morning Heartache, The Magnificent Seven, that's the key track. That's a really killer. Falling in Love Again, that's a beauty. And Be a Brave Utopist, which is the only non-movie track. It's something that Ambrosetti wrote, and he wanted to include it. Anyway, fantastic record. Movies by the Franco Ambrazetti and Friends. Okay, some of the artists that recorded for the label were European. A lot of them are, actually. And they're unjustly neglected, I feel. One of them, I got to turn it down just a little bit because I don't want to conflict with the vocals too much. One of them was very prolific, and I got to see this band live with a different guitar player. Barbara Dennerlein is a Hammond organ specialist, which is pretty rare in the late 80s. I got to see her when I lived in England. She was great and really a great, I've seen organ players and it looked like a guy sitting behind a desk. She really knew how to put on a performance. I really admired her playing, and her stage presence was really great. She's a tiny little German woman, very energetic. Anyway, great personnel on this. Again, Andy Shepard on saxophones, Mitch Watkins, a great Austin, Texas-based guitar player. Definitely a fusion guy. I really dig his playing. And one of my favorite drummers of all time, Mark Mondesir, who later joined John McLaughlin's band. Anyway, this is a really cool record, a mix of fusion-y originals and straight-ahead jazz standards. She recorded a number of LPs and CDs for the ENJA label. This is the only one I have on vinyl. I've got a couple of the CDs. Anyway, highly recommend it. Don't pass over her. If you like the Hammond organ, you should check her out. She's not a Larry Young kind of player. She's a little bit more straight ahead, but definitely has amazing chops and needs to be heard. Another German artist, well, not a German artist, another American artist who became a German expat is Bennie Bailey. And he recorded this record. It's not exactly a super cheapy, but it's pretty cheap. And you should check this out, especially if you're into breaks and beats and all that nonsense. It's not nonsense, I know. I just thought I'd say that. Anyway, this is called Islands, and it's Bennie Bailey with Eberhard Weber, Lala Kovachev, and Siggy Schwab playing guitar and sitar. It's called Islands, and all the compositions were written by a guy named Mladen Gutesha, who did string arrangements, and he did some easy listening records. He also did a very rare record called Und. I think it's on Philips or something like that. Anyway, the DJ guys love it because it's got breaks. This is better than that, I think. It's just a quartet, trumpet, flugelhorn, guitar, bass, and drums, and it's very funky. It's definitely a fusion record. It's unusual for the label in that it's definitely a fusion sound, but it's from the 70s. It's from 1976. And again, it never came out in the US or Canada. I think it's just the German press, but it's a really cool record. And if you like, say, Michael Naura's Vanessa on ECM, you're gonna love this. It's got the same kind of understated, funky jazz vibe. I really like that record a lot. Finally, last two, a German band called Blue Box recorded 3 records for the label. I've got 2, the first 2. And the first one is absolutely wonderful record called Stambul Boogie. And Blue Box is interesting. They used to be known as Contact Trio, recording for Japo Records and K-Lig back in the 70s. The guitarist left, and they replaced him with a trumpeter named Rainer Winterschladen, who's really technically amazing player, just a total virtuoso. But it's really interesting in that they began to incorporate electronics at a very early stage. And on this, it's very subtle, very judiciously used, not over the top at all. Really interesting. So it's Alois Kott on bass, Peter Isold on drums, and again, Rainer Winterschladen on trumpet. Anyway, really interesting record. I like this a lot. Pretty funky too. And it's also got kind of an edgy outside feel to it. Anyway, the band's name is Blue Box, and this is Stambul Boogie, and this is from 1985. The follow-up, oh no, I take that back. Ugh, I made a mistake. This is called Sweet Machine. Sweet Machine was the first one. Bad Dave. Second one is Stambul Boogie. And same personnel. This has a little bit more of an oppressive 80s feel to it. Actual drum machines on a track or two. Still worth picking up. Still, both of these records are really cheap, like single-digit cheap. I like this. It sticks in the collection regardless. This is from '86, and it sounds like 1986. Like I said, a little bit more electric. Anyway, I've gone on for well over 20 minutes. I'll be back with another ENJA Records summary in the next video, it'll be about the more avant-garde side of the label. I'm, of course, neglecting all kinds of great issues on ENJA. I'm just talking about the vinyl stuff that I still have. A lot of it's on CD in my collection, though. But anyway, check these albums out. Make your comments below and subscribe if you haven't. I'm not monetizing this or trying to do anything with it. I'm just an old dude talking about his albums, and I hope you don't mind that at all. Take care.